ND. Froggy, the presidents. You know who they are. And you know where you're at. KRFF 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org. We're streaming everywhere on this blue and green marble, and maybe in other planets too. I don't know. RadioFreeFargo.org. We can get into your ear hole. Come listen to me, will ya? Do it. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. That's me. I'm Wilson. We talk about cannabis, general cannabis news, the benefits of cannabis, cannabis legalization, and other fun stuff thrown in there too, like the Vietnam story where they're going to are going to give the death penalty to some lady who was fraudulent over billions of dollars in Vietnam. So we'll talk about that too. But at 4:20, we'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news. Stay around for that. Right before me, but not directly before. In the morning, Country with Trav. You want to get your dangling, ding, 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 pickup dog girl. Every morning, tap into 95.9 in the morning for country. Then you got Fred, spelled with a P, automation. Gets you to now. 4 o'clock. Wilson, Canna-Talk ND. 4:20, we open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and whoop, 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 out the door I go, and in comes Stinky Arts Music Mart. Mixtape, Artemis, Blood Train, wraps up Thursday on the best radio station in the world as far as I'm concerned. I believe God created cannabis for us to use as we see fit, and I show him props every Sunday. Antioch Church, 417 Main Avenue, 10 a.m. recovery. If you've got a monkey on your back, or you've kicked the monkey off your back, but you can feel that little banana eater at your pant leg. We believe God, via the Holy Ghost, can take care of your problem. So come on through. 11 a.m. worship. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook. 1,200 mgs of locally grown CBD in a little tub of body butter that's got kinds of, just got stuff for your outer body. Got comfrey, gold, weasel urine. It's got it all in there, folks, and you won't be happier that you've experienced it. Thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show. Now, I'm going to say this. You're listening to Radio Free Fargo, 95.9, KRFF Community Radio. Business owners, managers, nonprofit organization leaders considering advertising. Why not learn what underwriting is on a nonprofit community radio station instead? To learn more about what underwriting is, please contact us at our website, www.radiofree.org, or at our profile on Facebook. Why not let listeners know that you support the community by supporting a community radio station like 95.9? Well, like I said, we got stuff to talk about. 4:20, we'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news. Minnesota, well, we've got a few things to talk about there. We're talking about some crazy drug mixture that's got ground bone in it in Sierra Leone. There's drone drug delivery prison operation in Georgia. Leads to 150 arrests. Got dirty COs involved. You're going to want to hear about it. There's also a study that says rec cannabis use may protect against cognitive decline. I know I've gotten smarter every year. This Truong Ma Lan, Vietnamese billionaire, sentenced to death for $44 billion fraud. We will talk about that after the first musical break. So stick around for that. And again, you say, well, that's not a cannabis story. Well, maybe you've got to be smoking something to do whatever she did. So we're going to talk about that. I think we're going to sit inside a musical break. Come back. We'll talk about the Vietnamese execution. Here's how dumb I am. I didn't even know Vietnam was a communist country. But it is. So, okay. Well, let's get it. Here's Verdi Marte, the Magic Beans on 95.9. Yes, indeed. That right there is the Magic Beans. Sure. Verdi Marte is the name of that track. You're listening to 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, specifically this hour, cannabis-related. Except for this next article, which has nothing to do with cannabis. However, like I said, this is a crazy story, and you got to be smoking something to make these decisions. But anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. We'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news at 4:20. Stick around for that. This here is from the BBC. Truong Ma Lan, Vietnamese billionaire sentenced to death for $44 billion fraud. Apparently, it was the most spectacular trial ever held in Vietnam, befitting one of the greatest bank frauds the world has ever seen. So, this is a 67-year-old Vietnamese property developer. She was sentenced to death on Thursday for looting one of the country's largest banks over a period of 11 years. A looter. Looting so much, you got to be removed. It's a rare verdict. She is one of very few women in Vietnam to be sentenced to death for a white-collar crime. The decision is a reflection of the dizzying scale of the fraud. The verdict requires her to return 27, which they say may never be recovered. Some believe the death penalty is the court's way of trying to encourage her to return some of the missing billions. I don't know why she would care. The habitually secretive communist authorities were uncharacteristically forthright about this case, going into minute detail for the media. They said 2,700 people were summoned to testify, while 10 state prosecutors and 200 lawyers were involved. Apparently, there's 6 tons of evidence. 85 other tons were tried with Trong Malan, who denied the charges and can appeal. So, all the defendants were found guilty. Some were given 20 years, 3 years, whatever. Anyway, a conservative ideologue steeped in Marxist theories believes that popular anger over untamed corruption poses an existential threat to the communist monopoly on power. Okay, so check this out. She started as a market stall vendor, just in a little rickety old stall selling cosmetics with her mother. Isn't that what a crazy way to start a story that's titled Vietnamese billionaire sentenced to death for $44 billion fraud, and then you come down here, right? And it says she started as a market stall vendor selling cosmetics with her mother, but began buying land and property after the Communist Party ushered in a period of economic reform known as doi moi, whatever. Okay, by the 1990s, she owned a large portfolio of hotels and restaurants. So it's crazy that you start as a market stall vendor, and here we go. I mean, it almost just sounds almost cavalier, but it had to have been hard. Although Vietnam is best known outside the country for its fast-growing manufacturing, most wealthy Vietnamese made their money developing and speculating in property. See, you're learning stuff here on this show. It ain't all about cannabis. You just learned the Vietnamese makes a lot of their money developing and not in the manufacturing sector, sir. You think you know everything? Well, anyway, by 2011, she was a well-known business figure in Ho Chi Minh, and she was allowed to arrange the merger of 3 smaller cash-strapped banks into a larger entity. Okay, so here's what happens. Vietnamese law prohibits you from holding more than 5% of the share of any bank. So what she did is she created hundreds of shell companies and people acting as her proxies. And she actually owned more than 90% of this bank. They accused her of using that power to appoint her own people as managers and then ordering them to approve hundreds of loans to the networks of shell companies. The amounts taken out are staggering. Her loans made up 93% of all the bank's lending. All that cash, even if all of it was in Vietnam's largest denomination banknotes, would weigh 2 tons. Apparently, she's accused of the massive officially sanctioned publicity about the case. Let's see, whose fatigued, unmade-up appearance in court was in stark contrast to the glamorous publicity photos people have seen her in the past. So that's crazy, and they're puzzled that it would just be allowed, because it wasn't a secret. It was well known in the market that this lady was using this bank as their own piggy bank to make money that didn't exist. It was obvious that she had to get the money from somewhere, but then it's such a common practice. It's not the only bank, so it just kind of just fell through the cracks. Up until 2016, the party in Hanoi pretty much let this mafia run the place. They would make all the right noises, So there you have it. Trong Malan, Vietnamese billionaire, sentenced to $44 billion in fraud. Started out in a little cosmetic stand in a dirty old, market. Is pretty stinking crazy, if you ask me. Well, anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson at 420. We'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news, so stick around for that. Programming on 95.9, Radio Free Fargo, KRFFLP, is being underwritten by Drummer's Journey. Drummer's Journey offers percussion instruments, hardware, electronics, accessories, and more. They have full service for drummers, including repair, custom building, and lessons. Drummer's Journey is located at Highway 10 East Mall in Moorhead. Their hours are Monday through Thursday, 11 to 7, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 5, Sundays, noon to 5. For more info, check drummersjourney.com. They have a profile on Facebook. All right. Well, let's get ourselves into some music. Here's Dave Weckl and Jay Oliver. They're doing a cover of Higher Ground, which I don't know who does it originally, 95.9. Ooh, thank you, and good night. You've been great. Man, that outro was almost a minute long. That was insane. Well, it's time to open a big fat bag of cannabis news, so let's stink and do it, shall we? We'll see you on the other side of this.
Hey, it's Phil from Cannaheads. Like this episode? Hit that like button. And if you enjoy the show, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on cannabis news, local and national. Listen live on 95.9 in the Fargo, North Dakota region from 4 to 5 p.m. on Thursday. For our non-Fargo region friends, you can listen on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Now enjoy the show.
Okay, let's just... hello. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Canna-Talk ND with Wilson is brought to you by Fabergé Eggs. Just kidding. I don't even know where that came from. I hate eggs. No, I like eggs. I like eggs a lot. Who else likes eggs? Does anybody else like eggs? Okay, well, that's not what we're here for, is it? Let's talk about this. This is from CBS News. And Minnesota cannabis inspectors have seized $500,000 in illegal products. That's $500,000. That's kind of a lot. You know what I'm saying? That's just a little bit. So, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I'll let this guy... Let's see, remote PC. No, that's not that. That's not that. Hold on. Let's see here if we can just play this. Hold on.
Dose THC products. Minnesota health officials say they have seen products that are hundreds of times above the legal limit. Jason Randla shows us what you need to know to stay safe.
How's it going, sir?
At Hemp House THC Dispensary in the Wedge neighborhood,
You know what you're looking for?
you'll find plenty of the latest drinks and edibles featuring THC.
We get a lot of customers that are curious about THC.
While products on these shelves get the green light, that's not the case everywhere. The Minnesota Department of Health says they're finding some products with THC levels way over the legal limit.
We're finding a variety of products in the marketplace. Many of these are not legal and some very not safe.
In Minnesota, beverages and edibles are allowed to have 5 milligrams of THC per serving. The health department says they found close to 40% of THC shops were selling illegal high-dose products or those that appeal to children. Of the department's 170 inspections, only 25% of shops were found to be fully compliant with the law. But that could be for a variety of reasons.
Some of the other non-compliance could mean they're not registered, their products weren't placed behind the counter or in a locked case, that sort of thing.
Cody Dornbush with Hemp House says Minnesota brands tend to know the constraints of the law. If anything, it's brands from outside Minnesota that may be in violation.
We hear from out-of-state brands still that kind of might not be totally aware of what's happening in Minnesota and kind of have the laws mixed up in their own brands.
The state says side effects of the illegal dose products include unresponsiveness, extreme anxiety or panic attacks, and psychotic episodes.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about all that, but it certainly sounds like there's stuff on the shelves that shouldn't be. And they're still pushing that, appeals to children. I mean, children shouldn't even be in those stores, right? So what are they doing in there? But the crazy thing about the drinks and the products was all when they stinking legalized up to 5 mgs to 10 mgs of THC. They did. I mean, it's like, they did it, now they're mad. But you guys did it. You know what I mean? You guys stinking, well, whatever. Cannabis moment. The legal cannabis industry now supports more than 440,000 full-time jobs, up 5% from last year. So, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Let's see. In 2017, there was 122,000 full-time jobs in cannabis. And now there's 440,000. That's pretty awesome. I don't know. I might be in the wrong. I might need a different job. All right. This is from High Times. This is a crazy story here. Drug mixture called Kush in Sierra Leone sometimes contained ground up human bones. Leaders declared an emergency over a new smoking mix called Kush that contains several drugs. And wait till you hear all the stinking stuff that's in this stuff. So it's a cheap smoking mix that causes a powerful high made up of cannabis, fentanyl, tramadol, formaldehyde, of course. I mean, what would a good cheap smoking mix be without formaldehyde, right? And reportedly, in some cases, ground up human bone, which is the trifecta of this smoking mix. It's sweeping the city and nation as a whole. I mean, when you think about the word sweeping, I mean, is it really sweeping the city, though? I mean, have you ever swept? It's less a new drug, and it's rather more like a new drug mix made by drug manufacturers cutting drugs with cheaper substances that cause an effect. Locals roll the ground-up blend of drugs into joints and share them with friends for a long-lasting high. Like the zombie drugs you see in the U.S., and by zombie drugs, they mean fent or tranquilizing, and when they say where you see it, they're talking Kensington Avenue, Pennsylvania. I mean, it's almost like it should start being a DARE outreach, and they bring everybody to stinking Kensington, Pennsylvania, and watch them stinking drug addicts just twitching and flipping. And they just like drive through like a bus tour, you know? West African nations report their own version of a zombie drug. It declared an emergency due to the prevalence of people. So, again, unlike the landrace strain from Afghanistan and the Hindu Kush mountain range, and Kush, which we affectionately refer to good flower, Sierra Leone means a constantly changing mix of drugs in a smoking mixture that probably contains potentially physically harmful ingredients, namely various opioids and a little human bone thrown in there, just for fun. One of the drug's many ingredients is human bone. Security has been tightened in cemeteries to stop addicts digging up skeletons from graves. Just what a weird thing to go, bro. What you doing tonight? Hey, let's get tore up and rip a body out the floor, huh? Let's chop up some bones and get hyphy. What? Okay. Smoking crushed human bones contributes to the drug's hypnotic high that lasts about 6 hours. It contributes to it, does it? What? How? How does the human bone contribute to the hypnotic high? I mean, I've been going to be almost 3 years sober in August, but you got any human bones for smoking, friend? I mean, I don't mind hypnotic highs. Still crazy, though, that how they know it. A disturbing now deleted Reddit thread provided information on smoking human bones. Now, I've heard about, like, smoking scorpion stuff. The reports of grave robbing added to the nation's frenzy over this drug, which reportedly took popularity about 6 years ago. It drew the attention of Sierra Leone's president. He says, our country is currently faced with an existential threat. It's the synthetic drug named Kush. So anyway, man, Kush addicts are surging. I guess you get addicted to the bones. So options for locals are limited. There's a 100-bed facility that was hurriedly set up. Locals hope the Kush craze dies out, or maybe you could just get rid of all the bones. I don't know. But is there any truth behind smoked bones? The demonization of drugs may also play a role in the reality of how much Kush actually contains human bones. However, 7 cemeteries and Freetown reported grave robbing for valuables. Vice reported that people in South America are also smoking human bones to get high. The drug mixture, in some cases, has got extremely harmful ingredients. Bazuco is now considered the cheapest drug in the world, about 20 cents a hit. Now, are you ready for what's in this stuff? Okay, I'll just tell you. It's made from low-quality cocaine, brick dust, because, again, nothing goes better with low-quality cocaine like brick dust, volcanic ash for, an equally needed participant in this, whatever this is. Sulfuric acid, of course, kerosene, and sometimes ground up human bones. Bazuco is described as an epidemic in Colombia. As it contains cocaine, smoking it causes the smoker to compulsively crave another hit. So the high for this drug is also shockingly addictive, reportedly as an epidemic of Bazuco dependency in South America. So that's just crazy to me. But anyway, how we doing today? Everybody doing all right? Welcome to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson, and now we're going to talk about legal supply in question as marijuana bill moves forward. Excuse me. Legal supply in question as cannabis bill moves forward. St. Paul, Minnesota, a couple of token changes in Minnesota's new cannabis laws are highlighting concerns about whether a legal supply will be available when retailers launch sometime next year. So the demand for cannabis in Minnesota will be large enough to enable success at every level of the supply chain, but a minimally viable market with a slower tiered issuance of license. That makes sense. Just slowly roll out the license as our agricultural section of the growing, comes to fruition. But that's boring, so we're going to keep going. So, Minnesota cannabis law modifications are on tap before legal sales take root. The law also mandated the expungement of misdemeanors. The bill legalizing use tasked with licensing businesses, blah, 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 blah. There are dozens of mostly technical changes in the works at the Capitol, but there's a hearty debate over the process of giving social equity applicants a leg up in getting cannabis businesses licenses. And I don't know how I feel, but if I was somebody who had been, had issues with cannabis, and I wanted to grow and sell and be a business owner, I'm not sure what we owe them, really. I mean, they should be allowed, but I'm not sure about this leg up. I mean, I like the idea, so we'll see how it plays out. All right, cannabis moment. FDA head says there's no reason for DEA to delay rescheduling cannabis. And there isn't. There's no reason. So FDA Commissioner Robert Khalif also said that as a child of the 60s, it'd be nice in my lifetime if we came up with a regulatory scheme for cannabis. At a hearing before the House Oversight, they pressed Khalif on the timeline for scheduling. He says the timing of a regulatory decision is something that would be up to the DEA, not up to me. Now, there's no reason for the DEA to delay. They have to take into account all the regulations that are in play. Okay, so asked whether he expects FDA would assume additional regulatory responsibilities. The commissioner said that's a very complicated topic, this is just all wordies of just never committing to anything, So, without revealing too much about my age, he says he's a child of the 60s. In my lifetime, he's whatever your belief is about use of the product, where the safety issues that you referred to are written into law so that we have a scheme whereby we can regulate it. FDA's recommendation to reschedule cannabis completely ignores the realities of a drug that is causing enormous consequences. This is what, Representative Pete Sessions addressed. Now, he goes, ignores the realities of a drug that's causing enormous consequences to children and adults in our country, high schools, middle schools, and communities. Now, again, I always bring this up, but what enormous consequences? See, they never say it. They tell me it's causing horrible consequences in our children all over the country. Well, what? What consequences? What are they? I mean, I could have littered this whole 25 minutes with just articles and studies of how cognitive decline is reduced in cannabis users over 45, where recreational cannabis doesn't show any sort of residual decline cognitively in just periodic use recreationally, even as a youngster. Right? But I won't belabor you with all that stuff. But there's that stuff too. But I could show it to you. I could bring it here. I could, give you the references. Except then that'd be like a real legit show, and I got ADHD. I ain't got time for that. You want me to ramble about stuff I'm relatively passionate about for no money? Okay. Anyway, so I don't know. I think cannabis is differentiable from heroin, and I think cigarettes. Let me remind you that a Schedule III does not put cannabis on the market in the United States. So, and I think cannabis is differentiable from heroin and cigarettes. Cigarettes are horrible. There's big signs on the doors at the stores, right? We've had to acknowledge that this stuff causes blah, 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 blah. So anyway, North Carolina, this is kind of wild because this has been a while since this has happened. A potential showdown between law enforcement and Native American tribe is brewing in North Carolina. So the DA, of course, they say we're going to enforce state law once the state's first medical cannabis dispensary opens later this month. Now, the grand opening of the Great Smoky Company, operated by the Cherokee Indians, all right, by Asheville, is scheduled for April 20 opening. It will be the only operating dispensary in North Carolina, check this out, where neither medical nor adult use is legal. So it's like, well, how does that happen? You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, it's sovereignty. And then other nations are doing it too in their country, on their reservations. So once sales begin, the state law will continue to be enforced outside tribal boundaries. We do not pick certain laws to enforce and ignore others. We respect sovereignty and we respect the band of Indians' right to enact it. Exactly what Welch plans to do, though, is unclear. North Carolina is only one of 10 states without access to adult use or medical. However, sovereign Native American nations have launched legal cannabis programs on tribal land throughout the United States. So, all North Carolina residents 21 and older are eligible to apply for medical cannabis patient cards, the tribe had said. Welch's statement follows a letter that 2 U.S. senators sent to federal officials demanding to know what measures your department and agencies are taking to uphold current and federal state laws. The letter, tribal leaders called inflammatory. I'm going to call it that too. So let's keep going here. Anyway, this is just a fun little side. I mean, there's not a lot happening in the world of cannabis this week that's like all jazz hands and fireworks. But there's progress being made. About 60% of Utah medical cannabis patients obtain products from unregulated sources. So, I'm proud to see that overall patients are able to legally access their medication within the state at a reasonable cost. And that's only, that's the thing. Now, according to the Marijuana Policy Project figures, there are about 71,000 registered cannabis patients in Utah. Again, the more you know. Now, this is back. Free Mark Fogel. Free Mark Fogel. Cannabis moment. Senators condemn Russia over American citizens' ludicrous. I thought it was ludicrous. Ludicrous incarceration for medical cannabis. I mean, Mark Fogel, he's a stinking teacher. He had a medical card. He should be allowed back. How come he gets to be grinered? How come he doesn't get to be grinered too? The coalition, I got to believe education is just as important as basketball, isn't it? A coalition of more than 20 U.S. senators has filed a resolution condemning the arrests of American citizens in Russia, including Mark Fogel, who is serving a 14-year sentence over simple possession. So the measure was filed to mark the one-year anniversary of the arrest of the Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich over unfounded allegations of espionage. So they haven't even proved anything. All right. Fogel was detained for carrying a small amount of medical cannabis, which was prescribed by his doctor. But Mark has now spent over a year of a 14-year sentence in Russia. We need to get him out of there. The bottom line is that Mark's punishment simply does not match the crime. We must bring Mark and all other unjustly detained Americans home. Here. And Paul Whelan, is he still out there too? Yeah, Paul Whelan, Alsu Kurmashiva, Kasina Kavana, and United States permanent resident Vladimir Karamurza by the government of the Russian Federation. So let's see if North Dakota is a co-sponsor. Let's see. Nope. Only Democrats seem to care about that. They pointed out that his situation is comparable to that of Griner, who also served time. And she was released by swapping the merchant of death, which everybody thinks is crazy. Now, again, you're listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here, 4:20, open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and we up in deep in it right now. This is also from Cannabis Moment. Washington, D.C. mayor signs bill declaring 420 tax holiday on cannabis purchases. So if you're a medical patient in Washington, D.C., well, yippee on you. So it would support patients to shop at legal licensed dispensaries rather than obtain cannabis through the illicit market. I mean, you should take note of how many people choose to take you up on tax-free and then maybe consider, reducing the taxes. Now, let me just say this. A cannabis legalization measure will be on the ballot in Florida. Oh, and if you're a South Dakota resident, get out and sign the petition. If you know somebody in South Dakota, call them up right now and tell them to sign the petition. I'll wait. I'm back. That was quick. You called them. I know you did. But anyway, so South Dakota, they're going to have a legalization on the ballot. Florida is too. Now, what's wild about Florida is that there has to be 60% of the vote for it to pass. So that's going to be a hard number to hit, but they think they can do it. I mean, Florida's a big state. I'm not even sure what 60% is, but that's a big number. That's a big number. So I'll be watching that and I'll be keeping you informed. Now let's talk about this. This is going to be a fun one. This is from High Times. Drone drug delivery prison operation in Georgia leads to 150 arrests of inmates and dirty COs. Georgia Governor Bryan announced. So prison walls do little when drones can easily deliver drugs and other contraband. And we've seen this kind of happen over the years. I mean, we've even had pigeons with like meth in a little backpack sewed into their feathers. I mean, they've done it all. But I don't know that we've had any sort of thing happening in the U.S. yet. That was mostly abroad. But Operation Skyhawk was a joint effort between the Department of Corrections and the FBI and a bunch of other people. 8 dirty correctional officers took part. They were arrested and immediately terminated. The items that had been confiscated during the operation included a full range of illegal drugs with a total combined street value of $7 million. I mean, crazy stuff. 87 drones, 22 weapons, 273 cell phones, 180 civilian cell phones, which I don't even know what that means. What does that even mean? Isn't that a cell phone? I don't know. 185 pounds of tobacco, 67 pounds of cannabis, 12 pounds of meth, which is quite a bit of meth, 51 pounds of ecstasy. I mean, who's having raves in prison? That just sounds kind of gay. 10 grams of cocaine and 90 various pills. Photos of the confiscated drugs and weapons, including Wonka branded products, were also released. 3 large vacuum-sealed bags of flour can also be seen in the photos. Governor announced arrests on March 28. Search and arrests were served at 2 locations, taking down a sophisticated multi-state criminal enterprise, civilians, inmates, staff. Man, Operation Skyhawk led to over 1,000 criminal charges stemming from contraband, drug trafficking, and felons in possession of firearms, might I add, inside a prison. Whoa, am I right? What do we got here? California swindler pleads guilty to federal charges and fraudulent hemp scheme. I'm not sure how he did it, but he frauded investors more than $18 million. $2.3 million in personal expenses, $13,000 for chartered private jets. You know, living big. Now, here's a study. Recreational cannabis use may protect against cognitive decline. Recent study found that non-medical cannabis use is significantly associated with 96% and decreased odds of experiencing cognitive decline in adults age 45 and older. So how much more proof do you need, folks? Go out to your local shop right now. Do it. I'm going to wrap up here real soon, but I'm going to say this. Street renovation begins in Denmark to deter illegal cannabis sales. Apparently, Christiania, the residents, it's located in Copenhagen. They began to dismantle a part of its community where hash has been sold illegally for decades. Apparently, it was called Pusher Street, and it had cobblestones, and they started removing cobblestones on Pusher Street to deter violence and illegal cannabis and hash sales. Anyone was welcome to participate and could take home one cobblestone as a souvenir. For more than 30 years, Christiania and the illegal sale of drugs out here has been a huge thorn in the side of established society. Apparently, it was a street. The crime scene we have seen here has been so violent, we cannot have a Christiana that is dying out because people don't dare to be here. So they just got rid of the street. And again, watch out for Kush. And it's not Bubba Kush. It's dead people bones Kush. Just keep that in mind. Feds must change discriminatory cannabis testing policies to address trucking industry labor shortage. So, as a result, hundreds of thousands of commercially licensed drivers must routinely undergo whatever. Since 2020, 140,000 truckers have tested positive. Tens of thousands of additional drivers are skipping their tests altogether. In all, more than 150,000 drivers have left the profession in recent years because of these zero-tolerance workplace testing policies. And it's kind of interesting, if I would have looked, back in the, early 90s, looking ahead, thinking like there's no way that cannabis would ever be legal at all, but it should be, that this was how it would turn around, right? That it became such a popular thing and it was so ludicrous that it's like, well, we can't even get people to work. So now it's like, well, let's remove that one from the drug testing. It's kind of, it's taken this long to come full circle. Like, well, let's just not even test for it. Genius. Yeah, just not even test for it. Because like I said, you got a guy messing up. He's going to be just messing up, and it's going to be obvious. If a guy's doing his job and he doing it like he do it, bruh, then he doing it, bruh. Why you hemming him up? He come in, he's on time, he clocking in, he clocking out, he picking up, he putting down. What's your problem with it? Now, again, if he's like, mumbling like incoherently behind some box for 6 hours, well, let's look at it. Let's look at that situation. Anyway, you've been listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday, I get in here. 420, open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and that just happened. Programming on KRFF, LPFM, Radio Free Fargo, 95.9 FM has been underwritten by Flatland Guitar and Luthery. Flatland Guitars, your full-service guitar shop, and your exclusive dealer for Yamaha, Taylor, Paul Reed Smith guitars and brands that are others. They sell guitars on consignment. They take trade-ins and have a full-service on-site repair center. Check out Flatland Guitar and Luthery on Facebook or visit them in person at 1450 25th Street South in Fargo. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, Saturdays 10 to 5, and closed on the Lord's Day. Okay, my fish friends, and I know there's two of you out there. I got brand new fish for you. Here's Fish Evolve, 95.9. What do you think, fish heads? Brand new Fish Evolved, KRFF 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org, streaming everywhere on this blue and green marble. We aim to please your ear hole with the best audible content. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. Does my part to do just that. 420, I open a big fat bag of cannabis news. I've done it. I'm about out the door. I believe God created cannabis for us to use as we see fit. I show him props every Sunday, 417 Main Avenue. 10 a.m. we do a recovery. If you've got a monkey on your back or you've kicked said monkey off your back, but you can feel the little banana eater pulling on your pant leg, come on through. Give God a try one time. Sunday 11 is worship. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy. Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, 1,200 mgs, a locally grown hemp, wrapped up into some stuff for your outer body. Do your solid, do your body a solid. Body butter. Thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show. Educate yourselves on the benefits of cannabis so you can educate others on said benefits of cannabis. Stinky Arts Music Mart is on his way in here. It's very stinky. So if stink is what you're looking for, Stinky's got the stink. For not 1 hour, 2 hours of stinky.